Greetings, everyone. Once again, it's Mota Mwanedi sharing the authentic truth brought to us by Zoulou 100, the only teacher who came into the visible by the manifestation of the will of Loba to enlighten us in the truth, in the mysteries of the non-visible. So, as it is written in Proverbs 19:2, the lack of knowledge is not good for any spirit of man of the original race. And he who rushes his steps fall into sin. And also in Proverbs 25 verse 2, the manifestation of the will of Loba is to hide things to the uninitiated, white and mixed blood. The glory of initiated kings is to probe the hidden things of the non-visible. And also in Kunubane Mula, chapter 25, verse 12, it is written, "Truly, truly, I say unto you, we speak what we have penetrated deeply through the Mundi Musangi, Holy Spirit. We are witnesses of the things we have seen through the Mundi Musangi, Holy Spirit, and we bear witness to what we know according to the truth. And yet the rebellious, uninitiated, white and mixed blood do not consider our testimonies." And also in Kudumane Mula chapter 29, it is written, "You will know the truth, and the truth will make you free men." Now, in this teaching, we shall penetrate in the source of the high forbidden knowledge. We shall talk about the powerful patriarch known as Shaka Zulu, who has marked his epoch and many future generations even till today. So, in a series that was made previously, that was made regarding Shaka Zulu in South Africa, how the Westerners managed to trick him, how they came, and so on, regarding his history. But did it happen as in the series as the Westerners have tried to portray? There is a saying, a phrase, that it is the winner or the winners who tell history, who write history. We shall see the true history of the mysterious character of Shaka Zulu, this intriguing personage. Many fake pastors, self-proclaimed, come to teach, but they teach nonsense, heresies. They don't even talk about the story of Shaka Zulu. And even if they speak regarding his story, they are going to speak based on what they are told, what the Westerners have already written, the false stories, the false narrative, the falsified text, the falsified scriptures text. Here we shall enter, talk about the source, the true history, the authentic stories. And for that we shall go into a special book, the book of the prophet. And it is in Bibèl, Kalatambale, the book of the truth, the only authentic Bible without any errors or contradiction. So in Kalatabatopeda Mundi, book of the prophet, chapter 10, verse 1 to 28, it is the title, Mwanja Dibobe, Shaka Zulu. Now in verse 1, it is written here, and I shall translate in English. And once again, this teaching was given to us by Zoulou 100. I'm sharing his teaching, his message. Now, he says, at a very early epoch, on the territory of Wase Epasi Mikondo, Southern Africa, comma. So, why, when we talk about South Africa, directly many people are going to focalize, going to think regarding the country named South Africa, where in Southern Africa, there are many countries. when we talk about Northern Africa, there's many countries, Eastern Africa, and so on. But when we speak about South Africa, many people think directly of that one country in South Africa where Mandela came. That is not true. And then you're told here. So that's why here it's the truth. You're told here at a very earlier epoch on the territory of Wase Epasi Mikondo, so Southern Africa, a mysterious black boy was born known as Mwanja Dibobe, in bracket Shaka Zulu. Now, why was he mysterious? What made him mysterious? And then Mwanja Dibobe, when you translate, that's when you get, when they translate, that's Shaka Zulu, but the true name is Mwanja Dibobe. In verse 2, it says, during Mwanja Dibobe's birth, the atmosphere became heavy in all the continent of Wase. So, and then there's a period. So you're told here that the atmosphere was heavy. So all those who were in Wase, in ancestral Wase, at that epoch, felt it. Even the animals, they felt the vibration, the power, the heaviness. But what is happening? Verse 3, it says, Mundima Madiba Ebaidi, the entity of primitive water, appeared, and there was a very great storm, and the ocean made a great tumult. So, when you see the stories, the series, they diabolized Shaka Zulu to say that he was, we know he was a strategist, but they tried to say that he was a killer, barbarous, bloodthirsty, that he was packing people, killing people. Here we shall restore his story. In the series, there is a great sorceress in the bushes, and so on in the forest. And the companion animal, so they have companion animals, and it's the hyenas. And in the story they show, they say that they took a little thing. Interesting. They say that the sorceress prophesies his coming into Wase, Africa, to change things. And that's what you're told here. So that's the little thing that is interesting. They try to copy regarding his true story. But the truth is, there was a very great storm, and the ocean made a great tumult. Why? Verse 4, the uninitiated, the white and the mixed blood of the vicinity took fright. So they felt the terror, the anguish. They were afraid because they felt it. Verse 5, Mwanja Dibobe Shaka Zulu grew up and became more and more robust, strong, and spiritually powerful under the exceptional tutelage of his mother and the most powerful prophetess of the continent at that epoch. Period. So here, we stop in the period and we open the period. He became powerful because he was initiated by a powerful prophetess. in the story, they change it and they try to say that no, he was a sorcerer or witch. A old witch with eyes like she can't see, like she's blind. And she's ugly. And many of those who are not in the revelation, who are not in the truth, those who are disqualified have accepted that stories, those lies, those heresies. The true story is this. She was a prophetess, the most powerful prophetess in ancestral Africa at that time. She intronized, she initiated Mandaté Bobe Shaka Zulu. And he was also initiated by his mother, because his mother was also initiated. So, once again, I'll repeat verse 5. Mandaté Bobe Shaka Zulu grew up and became more and more robust, strong, and spiritually powerful under the exceptional tutelage of his mother and the most powerful prophetess of the continent at that epoch. Verse 6. Mandaté Bobe Shaka Zulu was initiated every night in the sacred forest by the prophetess in the art of spiritual warfare and of the forgotten science, period. So that is also why in the so-called series, they try to show how he was in the bush, on a valley, and he was training, and with the spear as well, how he trained. They put that there. But in truth, it was in the forest, a sacred forest. And the prophetess was teaching him regarding a spiritual war, spiritual combat. Verse 7. Mandaté Bobe Shaka Zulu became a transformer in the middle of Wase Passimikondo, Southern Africa, the one who centralizes the forgotten forces, the one who centralizes the forgotten science, the forgotten forces, period. So, you're told here, I'll repeat once again, verse 7. Mandaté Bobe Shaka Zulu became a powerful transformer in the middle of Wase Passimikondo, Southern Africa, the one who centralizes the forgotten forces, period. So that personage came to centralize the forgotten science. He was announced by the prophets. He was a formidable warrior. Someone who had to change things. Verse 8. Mandaté Bobe Shaka Zulu was a young black man of stunning beauty. So he was beautiful. Verse 9. His mother was a powerful warrior princess of remarkable beauty. Period. Verse 10. In some time, he rapidly became the most powerful and the most exceptional spiritual warrior in the whole continent of Wase in his epoch. Verse 11. He was endowed with also physical strength and prodigious endurance. Semicolon. So even in the series, they show you how they were training, running. They were running for a long time. Semicolon. He was fascinating and proved to be a great and powerful strategist. Period. His reputation extended to the territories where the whites and the mixed bloods lived out of Wase. So, They change his stories, his history, so that you don't know his true story, that he was a warrior, a powerful warrior. They want to teach you the story of so-called Napoleon, Genghis Khan, and the so-called heroes, the so-called conquerors of the Westerners, and so on. To make you forget the story of your ancestors. That's why they try to diabolize him, demonize him. Shaka Zulu was a patriarch. He was initiated. He was a warrior. And still in the series, you're told how even the queen and the so-called king, the fake queen, the fake king of the so-called Westerners, were hearing regarding Shaka Zulu. But lies. How you, in the so-called series, how they were told that he was in so-called Adam and Eve clothing. So basically, they didn't dress properly. They show that they lived in huts. The true story is what? At the time of Shaka Zulu, there was technology. There was power, electricity. Yes, there was electricity at the time of Shaka Zulu. It was a great kingdom. But no, they try to falsify, change history, try to show that no, they live in huts, they didn't know, it wasn't civilized, and so on. To change. To always try to put down. But the truth is, it was a powerful kingdom at the time of Shaka Zulu. So once again, verse 11, he was endowed with also physical strength and prodigious endurance. Semicolon. He was fascinating and proved to be a great and powerful strategist. Period. His reputation extended to the territories where whites and mixed bloods lived out of Wasi, so out of Africa. Verse 12. At the death of his father, Mwanja Dibobe, Shaka Zulu assumed the royal succession in accordance with the ancestral law, and became king of the clan of Po Dibobe, so Zulu in bracket. So once again, verse 12, at the death of his father, Mwanja Dibobe, Shaka Zulu assumed the royal succession in accordance with the ancestral law, and became king of the clan of Po Dibobe, so the Zulu. Verse 13, Mwanja Dibobe, Shaka Zulu, reigned on his people and began to initiate them and apply his revolutionary ideas against the white race to create a powerful army expert in art of spiritual fight. Period. So you're told here in verse 13 that Mwanja Dibobe, Shaka Zulu, reigned on his people and began to initiate them and apply his revolutionary ideas against the white race to create a powerful army expert in art of spiritual fight. Period. Verse 14, his actions influenced the lives and destinies of many whites and mixed bloods, as well as the uninitiated of Wase et Passimi Kondo, Southern Africa, period. Verse 15, Mwanja Dibobe, Shaka Zulu, was an important symbol in the fight of the awakening of collective consciousness between the black race and the white race. Once again, verse 15. Mwanja Dibobe Shaka Zulu was an important symbol in the fight of the awakening of the collective consciousness between the black race and the white race. So Mwanja Dibobe was an important symbol in the fight of the awakening of collective consciousness between the black race and the white race, period. Verse 16, he fought many battles against high-ranking sorcerers and sorceresses, and spiritually defeated a multitude of white armies. There it is. So, still in the series, they want to show you, to try to make people believe lies. It is like, for example, Alice in Wonderland. The little girl, Alice, who dreams, who go into Wonderland, and then there's a rabbit with a watch, and then there's a queen over there. But the character was transformed. The true Alice, meaning what? It was a psychiatrist hospital. It was a girl in a psychiatric hospital. She did horrible things. She killed people. And to get out of her condition, her state, because she was in that hospital, she began to imagine, to try to escape her condition. So it has nothing to do with the cartoons. She was a psycho. But they tried to embellish. Now people are going to ask, did Alice in Wonderland, did she exist? It's regarding the first story they wrote. It was about someone in a psychiatric hospital. And then they tried to embellish it later to try to show the children, to try to make it look nice. And when they claim that the so-called winners write stories, write history, which winner? They did not win anything. In the story, they tried to show you regarding Shaka Zulu, how he killed people and put them, basically packed them like Dracula. That they tried to portray him as a murderer, someone bad, someone evil, someone who was bloodthirsty. They tried to show that, that even many black people began to hate him because he was bloodthirsty, he was evil. So they basically lied to make you hate your ancestors, to make you hate your heroes, to make you hate the powerful kings in ancestral Africa. There are many kings who lived that they did not write about. Some people will say that if they did not write about it regarding a story of a king, for example, who lived if they didn't write it, that means if they don't write it in the so-called Bibles, that means they're not important. And that's not true. That's why even the same Biblist in other version of the so-called Bible, the ecumenical Bible, they spoke regarding Alexander the Great in the Bible, when in fact he shouldn't be mentioned in there. So they tried to hide, to try to shatter history, erase history, to try to make you forget regarding your ancestor, for you to not recognize them. So that's why they changed a lot of things, and they lied. Verse 17. He spiritually submitted provinces where the uninitiated, whites and mixed bloods lived to pay him taxes, period. So you're told here in verse 17 that he spiritually submitted provinces where the uninitiated, So in the so-called series, they tried to show how he was a killer, he was barbarous, and that he was burning the villages. When he came into a village, burn, make people suffer, because he himself suffered when he was young. That's what they claim. That if you don't follow him, if you don't agree with him, if you don't come into his army, he's going to kill you, kill your families, burn your villages, and so on. Destroy the villages. And they put it like that so that when you see him, when you read about him, for you to hate him. But when they talk about their so-called Napoleon, Genghis Khan, Alexander the so-called Great, they're going to portray them as conquerors, as heroes, as powerful. But didn't they do the same thing? Didn't they burn places, kill people? But they portray them in, let's say, a sort of good light. The so-called Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, and even Hitler, they're going to try to portray them as great strategists. They're going to make a lot of movies, write a lot of books regarding their stories, to try to portray them as heroes, as people who were very influential. But when it's about black heroes, black people, powerful kings, warriors, they won't tell. They won't show. They will diabolize them. They will demonize them. They will show you abomination to show to children for them to learn. And then they're going to say, yes, to be intelligent, you have to learn regarding what we wrote, what the Westerners portray. Nonsense. But you're told in verse 17, in Kalata Batopeda Mundi, Book of the Prophets, he spiritually submitted provinces where the uninitiated. It was spiritually that he submitted them, the uninitiated. Why? Because those uninitiated, those are black people, were bowing down to, many of them, bowing down to statues. So worshiping fake gods and so on. So that's why he came to reestablish the order. And those uninitiated acted like that because they were seduced by Satan. So he put them under his hold, under his rule, under his submission. He submitted them. So Shaka Zulu came to establish the order. And then you're told that after the comma, white and mixed blood lived to pay him taxes. So basically he made them pay him taxes because black people are not supposed to pay taxes. Black people should not pay taxes. Even in the current classical day Bible, you're told regarding Seul, so Saul, and the king, the corrupt king, how he made his own brothers pay taxes. So the black people. That's why he said that the one who will kill Goliath will not pay taxes, and also his family. Why? Because he knew that he wasn't supposed to do that. That the black people should not pay taxes. And in the so-called current Bible, they'll say regarding the Christ, that the Christ sort of agreed that you should pay taxes, but no. In the true version, it is mentioned those of the original race are exempt. So the people of the original race are exempt of taxes. Now, and so he forced those to pay him taxes. So that means the others didn't pay taxes. In Kalata Batopeda Mundi, chapter 10, verse 18, he says, when Wase Passimikondo, southern Africa, was in peace under his authority, so before the apartheid in South Africa and so on, he put peace in place in the country, in the region. There was civilization, technology. It was at peace because they were warriors, army, and so on. But in the fake movies, the fake series, they'll try to portray that no, when his mother was sick, that they put something on his mother's hair. So coloring, a solution polish, sort of, for it to be black. And when she healed, that they tried to portray that Shaka Zulu thought that the Westerners, the whites, were magicians. And that they tried to portray in the series how they came to show music boxes. And they were there like impressed, like villagers. They make it look like they were villager. And also they tried to portray that, they brought horses. And they tried to show Shaka Zulu on the horse to try to make it seem like it's something out of the ordinary, something amazing, something they didn't know about. When in fact there was and there is horses in Africa. So they want to make people believe that they didn't have civilization in Africa and even in Southern Africa, that they lived in huts and so on, that they were uncivilized, that they didn't know what they were doing. And Also, they tried to portray in the series how when his mother was dying, that he tried to put on the coloring on the hair, because to make it seem like he was thinking that could heal her. So lies and lies to try to portray them as uncivilized people who didn't know, who were not advanced. But here, we're here to establish the truth, tell the truth, reestablish, tell things how it truly was. So, when Wase Epasi Mikondo, Southern Africa, was in peace under his authority, he was ensorcelled. He was ensorcelled by a powerful Jengu Mamadiba, water siren, of high ranks, as well as by warrior and religious demons of high rank, because he penetrated what he should not penetrate. So I repeat once again. When Wase Epasi Mikondo, Southern Africa, was in peace under his authority, he was ensorcelled by a powerful Jengu Mamadiba, water siren, of high rank, as well as by warrior and religious demons of high rank, because he penetrated what he should not penetrate. So, like all good warriors, like a good warrior, like for example, Tondo, known as David, Satan attacked him. He reigned as a master, and Satan didn't like that. Satan wasn't okay with that. So that's why the Jengu Mamadiba, the water siren, was sent. And she wasn't alone. She was also with warrior and religious demons of high rank. So when we say religious demons, we can also say scientist demons. And then you're told in verse 19, so, he opened an entrance door, period. So it's also like, for example, the story of Nebuchadnezzar, the king Ekoto. They call him Nebuchadnezzar. He was a powerful king, but he opened a door he should not have opened. Verse 20. Thereafter, he let himself be seduced by the beauty of white and mixed blood woman. By the beauty of white and mixed blood woman. Verse 21. He then brought in white generals, nobles, and officers under the influence of his white and mixed blood wives. So in verse 21, I repeat once again, he then brought in white generals, nobles, and officers under the influence of his white and mixed blood wives. Verse 22. This is how he shared his kingdom and a large part of Wase Epasi Mikondo, Southern Africa, with the whites before his physical death. So once again, verse 22, this is how he shared his kingdom and a large part of Wase et Passimi-Kondo, southern Africa, with the whites before his physical death. Verse 23, it was also at this epoch that Mwanja Dibobe Shaka Zulu was delivered from the influence of this Jengu Mamadiba, water siren, as well as from the religious high-ranking warrior demons and from white and mixed blood women, period. So, because he was initiated, so he must not die in his sin in that condition. So, verse 24, Mwanja Dibobe Shaka Zulu began to fight the whites and to recover several territories which he had given to the white generals, nobles, and officers. Verse 25. Sometime after these events, Mwanja Dibobe Shaka Zulu died physically, and the white nobles generals, and officers began to exercise power and tyranny against the uninitiated blacks in the territories which had been allocated to them on a large part of Wase et Passimi-Kondo, southern Africa, period. Verse 26, their descendants did the same for many generations, for the more great woe of Wase et Passimi-Kondo, southern Africa. So here is regarding apartheid and so on. And even at the time of Mandela. His name is Madiba in the original language, ancient Douala, which means water. It is not for nothing that the entity of water came during, you're told, in Karataba Topeda Mundi, during the birth, in verse 3, Mundima Madiba Edi, the entity of primitive water appeared, and there was a very great storm, and the ocean made a great tumult, in Book of the Prophet, chapter 10, verse 3. So, Mandela did mark his time, but he was corrupted. He was seduced, and he accepted man with man marriage. And he agreed, he shared the power. So when we go in verse 27, the whites diabolized him much later. So this is regarding Shaka Zulu. The whites diabolized him much later in their stories, presenting him as a barbarous and bloodthirsty tyrant, period. So that's why you see the miniseries, movies, books full of lies, where they portray him as a tyrant, where they portray him as a killer, as a murderer. So they demonized him. Verse 28, Mwanja Dibobe Shaka Zoulou was a great, intriguing character, comma, a fabulous initiated warrior who in his epoch restored the equilibrium. So verse 28, Mwanja Dibobe Shaka Zoulou was a great, intriguing character, comma, a fabulous initiated warrior who in his epoch restored the equilibrium. So there is the true story of Shaka Zoulou, of Mwanja Dibobe, who is known as Shaka Zoulou. This is to tell you that there are many princesses, queen, even kings, and warrior who mark their time, who mark their epoch. So black warriors, black queens, black queen, black princesses, powerful personage who mark their time. Heroes who they don't mention, but they falsified, change things, change the colors, modify, change the names, and portray them, some of them, very badly. Zoulou 100. So Zoulou is here to reestablish the story of those who deserve that their story be reestablished. So that's the teaching. All glory be to Lopa, the only and unique creator.